And is this recording? This would be funny if this
Yes.
is okay, great. Well, now you've got blackmail stuff. There we go.
Welcome to A2A with Terry, and I am so excited because we have an multi-award winning and USA Today best-selling author as our featured author today, and that is Tamera Alexander. And she's not live right now, but she is waiting in the wings, and only because I have a little bit of housekeeping to do. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us. If you're new, thank you. And if my wonderful regular viewers, thank you so much for continuing to support this episode. And you're going to love it because there's going to be some fun stuff and a great giveaway. And by the way, if you're new, I hope that you will click that subscribe button, and when that little white bell comes up, be sure and click that, and you won't miss any episodes because I'll let you know when there's a new episode. So that's it for the housekeeping. And now I get to say, welcome, Tammy.
Hello there. Am I coming on? There we are.
There you are.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
You too. Happy to be here with you. I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for all that you do for fiction, for authors, and for readers, just the whole gamut. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It really is. And to be able to meet new people and new friends and people that where we connect in such a special way, it really means a lot to me as well. And also I have to say, Tammy is a mensch. She is a mensch. She is amazing, and patient and gracious. And I'm not even going to tell you all the stuff. But
I'll pay you later. Yeah.
So we were just talking before we started the episode just how busy Tammy is right now with writing incredible books, with mentoring other authors, with a new grandbaby, and now I just found out building a house.
Okay.
And so all of those things that are going on. Well, how is the best way for readers to keep in touch with you?
The best way is through Instagram and Facebook, but I also have a group blog with some folks, and it's called Inspired by Life and Fiction. You'll recognize there's 12 authors, and you will recognize all of us on there. I bet you will anyway. But honestly, is also my newsletter, which is on the very front page of my homepage. It's actually on every page. You cannot escape being asked to be part of the newsletter if you visit tameraalexander.com. So I'm just telling you now. But anyway, it's on every page. But that's a great way. In fact, I've got a newsletter coming out to folks in the next couple of days. So, and because they get the first information, the first see it things, and pictures of my grandson, because you don't want to splash those everywhere. So anyway.
Yeah, he is cute. He is a cutie pie.
Oh, thank you. He's sweet.
So, and by the way, on the blog interview, there's even more information on Tammy, and also kind of a really good writing tip. So I'm not going to say what it is because I want you to check out the blog as well. But all those links that Tammy was talking about will be down below in the description section. So we'll have that special blog with the 12 other authors, as well as the social media at her website, and where to buy her newest book, A Million Little
Thank
Choices.
you, which I have yet to hold yet. So thank you so much for. I'm like, come on, focus on the family. Where is my copy? I'm just kidding you, but I'm also not because I haven't held it.
Well,
You
that's
just
because I
enjoy it.
went through Isabella, because
Oh, yeah,
Isabella,
Bella did it. Yeah, she is something else. She is,
yeah,
yeah, she's amazing. But yeah, so I'm sure mine's in the mail.
like the check. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, gracious. Oh,
Well, and focus on the family. We're going to talk a little bit more about that because you told me a story about that and I was just blown away. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, your book, A Million Little Choices, I absolutely loved it. When I first started reading the book, I didn't know it was a dual timeline. And I know normally you write historical fiction, but this is both historical and contemporary. And I didn't know it was dual. And then when the dual popped up, it was like I cried out to an empty room. What? It was it was just, I mean, it
oh,
was just so great how
oh,
you were able to surprise me. I mean, just that doesn't
thank
happen very
you.
often.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm grateful that Focus gave me the opportunity to write that story. I've had that within me, oh goodness, since 2005 is when I first pitched that to a publisher. And they said, we like the idea, but I had just started out writing historicals, and they said, why don't you stay the course, steady along, and keep on writing historicals and grow your audience. And it was difficult because I had a lot of writer friends who were writing chick lit, and then they would write a historical, and they would write a contemporary, and they would write cozy mystery. And I thought, that looks so much fun. I mean, whatever we're not doing always looks more fun. I would look at the lane they're running in and think, I want to run in her lane. And my publisher just said, we're not going to take this book, but we will take 3 more historicals from you. And I was like, well, okay, all right then. I mean, what do you do? So this one went into the drawer until I'm not sure. Do you want me to talk about this now, or do you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
let's do.
Okay.
Let's do.
Anyway, Jerry Jenkins, bless his heart, most people don't know who he is, but
What?
he hasn't written many books at all. No, I'm just kidding. Oh,
I
people,
gotta watch you. I gotta watch you.
Jerry Jenkins, I don't even know how he knew my name. We had met through the years and talk at conferences and stuff, but bless him, he thought of me when Focus came to him and said, "Hey, we were thinking of starting a fiction line, an adult fiction line. Do you know anybody?" And he asked Chris Fabry and Angela Hunt and me. And I'd still just think, "Are you sure?" I know. I was thrilled. And when it came time, he said they want you to write a current day, a story. And I was like, you do know I write historical, right? And he said, we do, but we think you can do this. And I said, honestly, Jerry, I'm not sure. I said, and he said, well, just think of something, let it kind of simmer. We had a Zoom call. This is what, a year and a half, 2 years ago. We had a Zoom call about it. And Focus on the Family is, they're issue driven. They're family
Hmm.
oriented, with Alzheimer's, all the things that, raising children, everything that goes along with that. So there were a bunch of topics, and Angie was kind of leaning toward the addiction and the suicide, and I was like, well,
She
good.
would.
And yeah, you. And I was like, okay, you may have that one. That's the one I wanted, but it's okay. And then Chris Fabry he decided to do a story about Alzheimer's and dementia. And I had just walked my daddy home with Alzheimer's.
Mm.
And I just thought, yeah, sorry, you can have that one too. And then the one that was left was adultery. And I'd never been so happy about the topic of adultery in my life. I thought I escaped suicide and Alzheimer's, and I'll take adultery. So adultery and infidelity. And that was, and then this book that I had pitched all those years ago is exactly about this. So anyway, I stayed up all night because they needed a storyline turned in. So did that, and that's when. But I came to Jerry and I said, there is just no way. This story has been a dual timeline in me forever, and I cannot separate it. And he said, "Fine, I've read it. Great, let's go with it." So I was like, okay. So yeah, so that's how it came about. And I'm just so grateful because it would not have been the same without the historical. And at heart, I'm a historical writer. I can't write anything without history in it. I just love history. And I learned so much from history.
Mm-hmm.
American history, but also you and I have talked before about all of our Jewish history and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So history is so important to tell us who we are. So anyway, so that's kind of how all the focus book came about. And so I'm especially excited about this release. It's got a lot of neat things going on with it.
Well, it's really great, and kudos to Focus on the Family to have topic or theme driven, especially as it's relevant to families, especially at, I can only imagine some of the different topics that they'll be um,
Difficult.
talking about in the future. Yeah, yeah. But viewers, my September top picks had all three of the Focus on the Family books, and I didn't even know they were. It was just that because I see the publisher will send me the brief synopsis, and I'm always going to pick Angie because I've known Angie for almost what
She's
15,
just
20 years. Yeah. And then I've just fallen in love with Chris's writing. So
book is just both of those are just they're heartbreaking but also just so hopeful in the midst of that, which is real. And the same thing with this one, and that was one thing that they charged us with was we don't want sweet, we want real in every aspect of every one of these struggles. So that's what we gave them. And I'm grateful that they let it all stand too, because
mhm,
in this world, and there's certainly a place for the sweet, certainly that. But we just need to deal with those hard issues. I mean, the choir, some people say, well, you're preaching to the choir at Focus or whatever, but I mean, the choir is sick, as a friend often says, and we just all
mhm.
reminders and those and really it's the Lord's mercy and his grace through some very difficult times which we all walk through. So
Mhm. Well, and the thing that I love, well, I don't want to anything more about give away anything, no spoilers or anything about the book, but I can tell you, it is such an authentic rendering of what goes on with infidelity, and you just did a phenomenal job on it,
yeah,
and the title, a million little choices, you know
I was a women's ministry leader for 17 years, and it was just, I mean, it is rampant infidelity,
Yep.
all levels, different levels of it. But and how many times that I've talked to women, so they say take what you know. Joe and I specifically have not walked that specific road of adultery. We have walked.
Mhm.
I mean, after 40 years of marriage, Jesus is the one who says, if you even look at a woman or a man to lust, you have already committed adultery with him or her in your heart.
Mhm.
This is a hard issue. And I forget what it was. I don't know if they included Francine's comment on the back. Is that on the back, her endorsement? There's something how she worded it, Terri. Is it on the back page? It may not be. If it's not to worry, but there was something how she worded it on the back that was just, she did such a great job in talking about how it's the heart. I'm going to see if I can find it if you can't. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Oh, what we do in our minds and hearts matters, not just what we do with our bodies. That was in
Ooh.
leave it to Franny. She really just captured it. And that's exactly what this book is about. I mean, yes, there is physical adultery, but there is just adultery is not, yeah, it's not just physical. And so certainly, so Joe and I have both traveled that as far as, it's 40 years, and your mind and your emotions will sway. So this book is all about all of those culmination of stories and experiences. And again, this is a very different book than it would have been in 2005. And I think it's richer for it, which again, I go back to the adage that I've carried with me for most of my life, is that every no along the way is really part of God's final yes when his perfect timing is reached. Period. Period.
Oh,
It's true in marriage and raising children. Every no along the way is really part of his perfect timing. It's part of his final yes in his perfect timing.
oh,
It's just, so I cling to that. So, that no back then, it was because the story still needed to germinate and to grow and to be nurtured. And I'm especially, so all that is to say thank you for your kind words about the book. And I am just thrilled for it to come out and to be out there along with Kristi's and Angie's. And I've read both of theirs, and
mm-hmm,
some tears along the way, and
mm-hmm.
just how did he get me there with that hope, with that fresh hope in the midst of such. So highly recommend those two.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Alzheimer's, and we're going through it with my mother right now. So I had to push through to read it, but there were so many laugh out loud moments in that book that
There
it
are
really gave you little respites between the
so
realities.
was so good about doing that. Yeah, both of those could have been just so heavy, but they both handled that. I mean, look at them. It's Chris and Angie. Of course, they would handle it that way, but yeah, he was just expert on that point for sure. So.
Yeah.
And it was fun working with Jerry. We all had a great time. We would do Zoom calls together. And as I wrote in my, I think it was the influencer letter to people. I said, Jerry and I'd never had a male editor before, and we got along great. We only tried to kill each other 3 times, maybe 4, but it was that was different. That was different for me, working with a male editor. I mean, this is what, book 19, and only female editors all this time. And all of a sudden it was it's like different. I mean, but it was so great. Again, on this book, a husband and a
Yeah.
wife, and infidelity. I mean, again, God, perfect timing, So
Perfect timing.
very grateful.
Yeah. That's so encouraging. And by the way, any women's ministry viewers out there, your next women's retreat, this book should be a must, because as Tammy was saying earlier, what is going on with infidelity of the mind and of the body is so rampant in churches and among believers. And so this is a great way to be able to kind of take a step back, yet have that intimate information.
And it's a wonderful way just to open doors where women can
Yes.
talk about it in an unthreatened, in a less threatening manner, rather than just coming and say, well, I've had an affair or I've been struggling. They can talk about Claire, they can talk about Charlotte. And then eventually, as far as intimacy, all the relationships, they don't start out, just like that, especially when the group setting or a retreat. But if you put something like those questions in that book out there, and that allows women to share something that they might not have, and that's part of our prayer too. That was part of our intent with these books, is to open for husbands and wives to talk, but also family members, congregations, to be able to talk about these issues.
Yeah, and feelings of hope too,
Mm,
even in the midst of
always
difficulties.
with
So
Christ. Yep.
yeah,
Always.
amen. Amen. So, well, we've talked about this incredible book, and I read the first couple lines, but I think Tammy should choose a section, an excerpt, and read for us. Can you do that, Tammy?
I will be happy to. At the end, you might tell me not to quit my day job. So we'll see. Okay. This is actually, we're going to start with chapter 4. Simply because I know after Terri and I talk, she reads the intro. So this is that same day. Basically, the story opens up with a conflict between Stephen and Claire on the phone, and he is out of town. So this is him. This is later that night, and we are in Claire's POV. Lying awake in our bed later that night, I heard the whir of the garage door. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed 11:39. Minutes later, the usual jingle of Stephen's keys, a soft clunk as he set them in a bowl on the side table, then the muted thud of his footfalls on the hardwood stairs. I curled onto my side and closed my eyes as my pulse kicked into overdrive. Conversation was not on my agenda, not this late. I'd actually been relieved when he'd texted me about his flight delay. I concentrated on smooth and tranquil breathing, the opposite of what I was feeling. Claire, he whispered, honey, are you awake? It was an entreaty, an offer of truce, but I didn't move, certain the clamor of my heart would betray me. He retreated into his walk-in closet. At the soft click of the latch, I opened my eyes. I knew the ritual. He was meticulous with his clothes. He hung up everything, even a suit going to the cleaners. It was a habit I admired. That was just it. I admired so many things about my husband. I loved him. No, more than loved him. I could not imagine life without him and didn't want to. But how could we get back to who we once were after he'd proven he wasn't who I thought he was? The light beneath the closet door went black, and the door opened. I closed my eyes again, doubting he'd found the first of 2 sticky notes I'd left for him. The other I knew he wouldn't find until morning. He climbed into bed and scooted close to me. Babe, he whispered against my hair. His hand was warm on my hip, his caresses unexpectedly stirring. Sorry again about being late. Thunderstorms. I found it difficult to breathe. Sex was the furthest thing from my mind. Still, deep inside, I responded to his tenderness. We'd made love only twice since December, so different from how we'd always been before. Both times had been at the counselor's encouragement and had felt like homework left to the last minute, perfunctory and rushed. Stephen had initiated intimacy on other occasions, but as I told the counselor privately, I found reciprocating difficult. I couldn't help but wonder if he would be picturing her while making love to me. After all, why would my husband seek another woman's attention if he was still satisfied with her? But now, Stephen's breath on my cheek, his tenderness, the warmth from his body made me long for that rush of surrender I used to feel when he touched me like this, instead of the constant internal tug of war. Can we talk about it? He whispered. I can't right now. He wrapped his arms around me and pressed a kiss against the back of my head. I braced for a dose of lawyerly persuasion. We'll wait until morning then, he said softly, then rose and gently cupped my chin, encouraging me to look at him. I was reminded of what my mother had said upon meeting him. Are you sure he's going to be an attorney, Claire? He looks more like a young Clint Eastwood. He's got those bedroom eyes, too. How she and I had laughed about that through the years. He brushed my cheek with his thumb. No matter what comes, Claire, we'll get through this. Hope stirred within me. No matter what comes, that felt open-ended, like he hadn't completely made up his mind yet, like we would make the decision together. His lips were soft on mine, gentle but unmistakably questioning if there was a way to breach the wall between us. And for the first time in what seemed like forever, my desire for my husband overshadowed my desire to see him pay for what he'd done. I wove my arms around his neck and returned his kiss. A soft groan rose in his throat. He covered me with his body, and the distant but familiar flame ignited inside me, followed swiftly by uncertainty. Was he imagining her now, wishing I were her? Or was he fully present with me? Did he want to move to Atlanta so he wouldn't be tempted to go back to her? And if that were true, how could I know there wouldn't be another equally tempting young thing at the new law firm? So,
See. I mean, open and real, and there you go.
and
There you
all of
go.
those, and all of those choices we make. I mean, that was something that didn't hit me until well into marriage and we've gone to some counseling early on in the years, mainly me just going and talking and just I've always found that helpful. So if anyone thinks that's weird or do not hesitate. As a dear friend, and she says this publicly, so it's it's Kristi McLelland, who just wrote the book that Terry and I were talking about earlier, Rediscovering Israel. It just released, I think it was yesterday. But Kristi says, you know, Jesus is all I need, but also some counseling. Just counseling and maybe some coffee, maybe coffee. She just, but that's so true. So, but anyway, that is a million little choices. It's those tiny little choices that you think are insignificant, but even Claire just not responding, that was a choice.
That
That
was
was
a choice, especially when she felt it. She felt it, but
she knew.
I want him to pay a little bit more. And am I compromising my own respect?
He hadn't paid his debt yet. Oh my word. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, thank you for letting me read. That's always it's always fun, but also like people I'm thinking, please don't let my reading put you off from reading the book. Yeah. They got a
no,
much
not
better
at
name
all.
already.
Not at all. Not at all.
In
It
fact,
was very,
I just got the audio version the other day, and she does such a good job. You always kind of think, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be really good? Is it going to be like, wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to phrase that or read it. But she does a great job. So that was nice.
yeah, I had my first book done, audio version of it, of Sweet Rivalry, and that's like all sorts of angst and everything else. And so
So did you
it
do it?
was
Or
no,
okay, you
an
have.
actress did it, and
Oh,
she was really good, and she has a
good.
very easy to listen to voice.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
That makes such a difference. Such a difference. Yeah.
does. So what are you working on now?
Oh, this is so fun. I'm working on my first book for Tyndale Publishers. I recently signed, well, a
Oh,
while, but a two-book contract with Tyndale. So I'm working on my first book for them, and it is on somebody you probably haven't. I'm not sure if you've heard of this town or the person, but it's Jack Daniel, Lynchburg, Tennessee. Jack Daniel whiskey, the distillery, and it's not all about whiskey, but it's about Miss Mary Bobo's boarding house, which is just a stone's throw away from the distillery. If you've ever been to Lynchburg, a hefty stone's throw away from the distillery. And that is where Miss Mary Bobo was an entrepreneurial woman at the turn of the 19th century, and she was just amazing. And she owned a boarding house, which still stands today. Actually, it's no longer a boarding house; it is a family-style restaurant. But Jack Daniel ate lunch there very frequently. So this is, and of course, I live in Nashville. My dad is from Fayetteville, was from Fayetteville. So I grew up when anybody wanted, we're they were coming to Atlanta, don't ask me why. We would take them to Lynchburg. It's, because my ancestors worked there when we were first starting. My great great grandfather broke mules for Jack Daniel. He broke the mules. So I mean, we have a family history in here, but I don't know why we would just make the sojourn. Let's take them to the whiskey place. So, and that was back when they gave, it wasn't a dry county yet, and they gave samples at the end. So funny. But so by the time I was I had been teenager, I had been to Jack Daniel so many times. So I've known the history, love the history, and love Lynchburg. If you've not been to Lynchburg, we have got to go. It is just a gorgeous, with the hills and hollers, as they say. It's just a beautiful place. That part of Tennessee is just lovely. So this is a story about Miss Mary Bobo's boarding house. It's also about a suffragette who has killed someone, who is on the run, and in Lynchburg. And then, of course, suffragette, what were they? Teetotalers. And where's the only place she can work in town? Who's hiring? The distillery.
Daniels.
But she doesn't have many choices in a town of 400. So anyway, it's been a fun book to write. And so that one will come out hopefully next fall. So we'll see how all the scheduling goes. But so I'm loving, and working with Tyndale is just so fun. They're a great group of people, which incidentally, Tyndale also works with Focus on the Family in their fiction line. So, Focus uses their publicity and some of their departments there. So it's been a fun blend to go ahead and start working on with them even before my book strictly for them. So, but that's what's coming up next.
I'm looking forward to that. That sounds like it's going to be, I mean, you're going to have some conflict and difficulties and, the heroine's journey, but then there's just going to be some funny stuff too. I mean, you have whiskey, you can't help
always
it.
Whiskey and a teetotaling woman. That's always what's not to love. Gracious.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the blog interview has some great information about Tammy, but I always like asking different questions on the blog interviews. So, question I asked Tammy was, how about telling us something about yourself that most people don't know?
That most people don't know. And I had two or three things but I guess something that people might not guess right now is that my daughter-in-law and I would love to write children's books together. So we are kind of collaborating on that, which is really fun. Kelly is a fabulous illustrator. So that's what we would love to do next. And I'm sure those will be indie, something that I do on the side. But with Leo, and we read books, just tons of books, and I've already bought so many books, and we just read them over and over. But there are some eternal truths that I think I would love to teach him, specifically at this age. And some of the books, they have wonderful eternal truths, but even the illustrations they don't hold him. It's too busy, it's got too much on the whatever. So, and Kelly is a social worker. She is a counselor. So she has had some background in some of this with younger children. So we've talked about doing some books specifically that might help in a counseling arena as well, helping children. So, but that's kind of exciting to think about doing that with her.
Well, there's something about when you have an emotional investment in a loved one to write for them. We talked about in the past that, the first middle grade book that my friend and I, Cynthia, wrote, that I wanted a book that my grandson could read, and that he's Black, and so there aren't a whole lot of stories out there for middle grade where there is a strong Black protagonist. Right. And so
good for you.
Yeah, so it's like we have now this emotional connection to.
I was going to say, how does he feel about that? Yeah.
Well, it came out when he turned 17, so it wasn't quite the reaction. Uh, it was almost a little embarrassing because I dedicated it, and he calls me Safta, which is Hebrew
Oh,
for grandmother. And so he
love
said,
that.
"Oh, thanks." But now that he's read it, and now that his face is on the cover, they did a caricature of him.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love that. I,
so now I'm cool grandma again. But
oh, well, you have a cool name, Softa. If I had known that, I know my kids named me Gram Tam, which is
oh
it's cute, but Softa, that's just classy. And it's
yeah,
Hebrew. Mm.
Safta, and then Saba
And
is
Saba. I knew Saba, but I'd never heard Softa. I
yeah.
love I love that.
Yeah. Otherwise, the Yiddish is bubby, and I just don't. I'm
I
sorry.
don't know why you didn't go for that one. I don't know why you didn't do that one.
Just different, different picture in my head.
Softa or Bubby.
Yeah.
I love it.
What do you think?
I think I'd vote for the former.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, on that note, the giveaway. And as Tammy just said, I got this before she did. Well, guess
I'd be
what?
able to enter it. Am I eligible since I don't have it yet?
I mean, that's just sad. I'll send you mine. I would send you mine, except I don't want to I don't want to
Oh, you're
surrender it.
fine. I'm sure I'll
But
get it someday.
yeah.
Gary, if you're
Call
listening,
Isabella.
Gary, if you're listening, where is my book? Sure, ask me to watch and don't send me any books. That's just great.
Yeah. Jerry Jenkins, send the woman her book.
Come on, buddy. I should have put that in the contract. Oh, you'll publish it. You just don't get the book. Oh, read the fine print, Tammy. Read the fine print. Yeah.
Well, now the giveaway is that you'll probably get it before before Tammy does. So
Right.
yeah, because the giveaway will be done October, what is it? Yeah, October 13th.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so and the release date is November 11th. So yeah, you'll probably get the copy before Tammy does.
yeah. Whoever gets it, I really hope you enjoy reading it. Whatever. Yeah. No,
Well,
I'm really.
we know they they will love it. And I'm sure they'll, ladies, take it to your women's ministry leader too, because such an important book. And it's just so beautifully written. I mean, just it is so beautifully written. So who wants to win the book and win it before it actually comes out in November? Um, all you have to do is go to the blog and figure
That's
and
all
get
you
all
have
the
to
little tips. But
say.
actually, it just boils down to commenting, liking, and sharing and subscribing. But if you're already a subscriber of this YouTube channel and you're already a subscriber to the newsletter, then as long as you comment, you'll get all those extra entries, and you can get up to 6 entries, which
Oh,
is pretty
nice.
cool.
Nice. Nice.
So one thing though is that the entries only from the contiguous US. So sorry, Alaska. Sorry, Hawaii. So
Sorry.
sorry. But it's still a pretty good deal. So Tammy, do you have any final words?
Oh goodness. Sometimes I end with the book that I'm reading just, to pass on the book love. And I mentioned it once, but I'll just hold it up because covers stay with us. This is Rediscovering Israel by Kristi. McLelland, and
Beautiful.
something that has blessed me so much in the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years is studying. And Terry, you and I have talked about this already a lot. Is studying the Bible through a Middle Eastern lens. Friends, it changes everything. It changes everything, and it just opens the Word up. And Jesus has drawn me closer to Him through studying that way. But this is a book that I had the blessing of going to Israel with Kristi in 2019 with my daughter, and actually my husband and I are headed over there soon because he hasn't been, and I really wanted him to go. There's life before Israel and life after. But let me tell you, reading this book, you truly feel like you've been to Israel. She
Mm.
opens up the land to you in ways, and the Hebrewness of Jesus and the Jewishness and all the culture, the linguistics, just the content, everything. And so I always share books that I'm reading, and I would highly recommend that one. So
Well, I will definitely check it out. It's I think I mentioned this that the Tree of Life version of the Holy Scriptures. I was one of the managing editors, actually, of the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament part of it.
wow.
Um, so I can tell you that culture and context are critical in reading the Scripture. And we were talking about earlier um, that there are patterns all throughout Scripture, and if you tug on Genesis, Revelation is going to follow. So it's all connected. It's just all connected.
And
So
the Bible comes alive, doesn't it, in ways that yeah, for years I just asked God, would you please increase my desire for your word? And
mm,
I just absolutely, I just cannot get enough. And it's all him, but I just love to study. And I just, so that's, if there's one thing that, you're looking for a book to read that might encourage you in your walk and in your thirst for the word, Rediscovering Israel would be a great place to start. So
and we'll put a link for that as well down below in the description section. So
so fun. You are
yeah.
just, yeah, you're a delight. Thank you so much. This is
Oh, my pleasure. And you know me, anything to promote Israel and that I'm on board. I'm on
Amen.
board.
Mhm.
So, just a reminder, all those great links are down below in the description section. And just remember that social media, liking and following and subscribing, it really helps us authors. So those links are going to be down below, and the blog with the other authors as well. So next month, the A2A episode, it's actually my 3rd year anniversary for my YouTube channel. And so we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have indie and hybrid authors, author panel. So we have enough authors that we're actually going to have 2 episodes. So if you're interested in writing or you just like information on that process, I hopefully, and they'll be giving away books too. So can't have that without giving away books. So, Tammy, this has just been a delight. You have been such a great interviewee, and
Me too. And I've enjoyed getting to talk with you both on and off camera. So this was fun.
thank you, thank you. So, thank you so much, viewers, for watching. Until next month, God bless and keep reading.
See you.